How to make the perfect Mortal Kombat character. Start with Kenshi, but make him younger. Now give him Scorpion's powers, but make his weapons way cooler. And finally, give him freaking lightsabers, because lightsabers are awesome. Today, we're looking back on the most beloved character NetherRealm has ever made. Even Chronica herself agrees that Takeda is the best character in every timeline. In fact, she loves Takeda more than her own son. Make sure Takeda is in the next game by leaving a like down below, and then subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. And without any further ado, let's get started. Overall, Takeda is a very balanced character, but first and foremost, he is a mix-up monster, and that's because he has this move right here, the kunai. This attack hits low, and best of all, he can aim it. There's a close version, a default version, and a far version, so you're never safe from this thing. And because it hits low, it is fantastic for mix-ups, because check this out, overhead, guess what? Now it's overhead low. Or how about this string? Great range and ends in an overhead, but guess what? Not anymore, now it hits low. Takeda has so many overheads in his strings, and at any point you can replace them with a low kunai for a good mix-up. And at a casual level of play, that's all you needed. You could mix the opponent up all day by just switching overheads and lows constantly. However, it's the overheads that led to a full combo, so the idea was to attack the opponent's ankles over and over again, break their ankles, make them terrified of the low so they crouch, and then catch them with the overhead and get a full combo going. And these combos did good damage. Takeda either had big boy damage or at least average damage. This guy hit pretty hard. And once again, that's just the casual level of play, because get this, when you meter burn, you can hold down the kunai and then delay them to explode later. And when you combine those with his overheads, you have a very tough to block situation, because you can choose which one happens first. Right there, the low was first, but this time the overhead was first. Once again, I choose when they detonate, so blocking here was almost impossible. And that's why a lot of players would just jump away, right? But here's the thing, you had to know the amplified kunai was coming, otherwise you could not escape the explosion in time. And then even if you did jump backwards, Takeda could jump with you and get a full combo off the air to air. And even without meter, that combo was still doing decent damage, but if you wanted to spin the bar, it did some really good damage. So even though there were ways to escape this setup, it was very difficult, and regardless of the timing, Takeda could do a jumping kick and then teleport to get a full combo regardless. And that's why even at the highest level of play, Takeda was an absolute monster when it came to mix-ups. And everything I just mentioned was just a base Takeda, so now let's talk about the variations, starting off with Shirai Ryu. This was by far the most common variation, and that's because its tools were so good. For starters, you have the teleport, which can be held and even cancelled, and the cancel is almost instant, so look at that annoying mix-up right there. You can cancel into this thing on block and still have time to throw the opponent before they react. Even at high levels of play, this did catch players every now and then, because even though the cancel doesn't happen right away, the teleport is always a scary threat. This thing leads to more guaranteed pressure and more mix-ups, so you don't want to get hit by this thing. And as you already saw, this teleport can also be done from the air, and if timed correctly, it leads to a full combo without any meter. But then we have the meter burn version. This led to a full combo, and dear God, the animations. I swear, all the good animations went to Takeda. This guy looks so smooth. And I don't know if you noticed, but the second part hits low, and that caught a lot of new players off guard, and then the air version hits overhead. I have no idea why his teleport is a 50-50 when you do the air or the grounded version, but here we are. As you can see, this teleport is pretty good, and then at the higher level of play, it makes his mix-ups so much better, because now he gets a full combo off of everything. But then we have the Spear Ryu. Oh my god, I love this animation so much. People say this game has bad animations. Show them this. There is no flaw in this animation. It's so smooth and so slick. I love it so much. And keep in mind, this move hits mid, so you can't even duck under it, so it can snag people as a great whiff punish. And then the meter burn version leads to a full combo, and it's so beautiful. Oh my god, this character's combos are so fresh. And then for the cherry on top, you can do this move after the meter burn teleport. The game lets you do both. So yeah, if you have two bars, the combos are going to be flashy and they're going to do some good damage too. And then finally, we have the air spear. Once again, a rarely seen move from Takeda, but that does not mean it's bad. As you can see, it hits overhead, so it can be a double overhead jump in. Or it can also be used to bait your opponent when they go for an uppercut. You jump forward, they try to uppercut you, but instead you stay in place and catch them with the air spear. It's a pretty good mind game, especially at the casual level. And then if you spin the bar, you get a full combo. And once again, the beautiful animations. I love this character so much. He looks so clean. And next up, we have the Lasher variation, which was a bit less popular, but it's still a great variation in its own right. And believe it or not, this poke is one of the best things about this variation. Look how far this thing reaches, and it's only 11 frames. That is almost 1/6 of a second. And despite that godlike speed, it still has absurd range. And guess what? This thing can special cancel for a full combo. So yeah, this poke is amazing. It's great for controlling space, it's a fantastic whiff punish, and it leads to full combos. The only downside is it's very, very unsafe on block, but once again, you can special cancel it, which means you can make it safe. But next we have the special moves, and first up is Whip Strike. As you can see, this move hits all around Takeda. A fantastic hitbox. You can't jump this thing, you can't switch sides, it's amazing. And then if you spin the bar, you get the knockdown and even more damage. It might not seem great, but trust me, it's fantastic for controlling space. And of course, you know this move is armored. Look at that. Stay down, reptile. It's still my turn. Don't you run at me, boy. I'll knock you down. And then of course we have the Whip Assault. This move looks so good that I can guarantee you it's why a lot of people main this variation. You can meter burn this move right at the start if you want, but you also have the option to meter burn after it lands for an amazing launcher. That's right, this move is a great hit confirm. You can wait to see if it lands and then spin the bar after. And did I mention this move's only -12 on block, which means if spaced correctly, almost no character can punish it, at least not without spending meter. And then last but certainly not least, we have the Whip Trip, which is a low mix-up. That's right. Remember all the overheads? Well, now the mix-ups just keep coming. You already have the kunai, but the kunai knocks the opponent away. Not the Whip Trip, it brings them in close. Which means at the end of every combo, the opponent stays nice and close where the mix-ups can just keep on coming. And then if you spin the bar, you get a launcher. That's right, the combos cometh once again. And even though Whip Assault does do more damage overall, Whip Trip only hits twice, which means the scaling is much lower. Or if you want, you can do both in the same combo. The game does allow for that. But the point is, both the overhead and the lows lead to a full combo, and unlike the Shirai Ryu variation, it's not that hard to land this mix-up. Just do a low special move or do an overhead normal. It's pretty easy. And if you're wondering why this amazingly flashy variation was a bit less popular, it's mainly because you didn't have the teleport, and I think the damage overall was a bit lower than Shirai Ryu. However, even so, this variation does bring the armor, and it's great for space control and has one of the best pokes in the entire game, so it's still a great variation in its own right. And then finally we have the Ronin variation, which was sadly the least popular despite having freaking lightsabers. Once again, every build for Takeda is so flashy and cool. But even if it was less popular, it was still very fun to watch and had some really good strings. Check out Rising Blade. This thing starts combos without using a special move. How sick is that? And then you have the low swipe, which hits low as the name suggests, and believe it or not, the second hit actually restands the opponent, which is great because this variation has traps. And then you have Way of Hasashi, which is so sick because it hits overhead and then low, just like Aaron Black. Try blocking this in a bad connection. All of these new strings are amazing and really help this variation stand out among the rest. And once again, it's time for the specials. First up, we have Blade Drop. This move is a trap. Do the input a second time and it hits low to launch the opponent. Unfortunately though, if you don't spin meter, you don't get a full combo. However, like you just saw, the meter burn does bring the opponent right to you, which is pretty sick. However, do be warned, once you toss this move, you no longer have the lightsabers. And then finally, you can recall the blade without actually activating it by doing down forward and left punch instead of down back. And now it's time to talk about Piercing Spark. This projectile is just too darn good. In fact, it's the main reason you play this build at a high level. This projectile is safe on block at -3. Nobody in the game can punish this thing even if you do it right in their face. That's already pretty good. But then the meter burn is +6 on block, so it's actually still your turn. And look at this thing from far away. It covers the entire screen and it lingers. So if the opponent jumps, you can do this thing and they'll fall on it. Yeah, I can't overstate how good this projectile is, especially the meter burn version. Being +6 on block and also covering the entire screen so quickly, yeah, this move is absolutely godlike. And guess what? Takeda also has a reflect, so a great projectile, and you can also send your own projectile back at you. Once again, this was the zoning or counter zoning variation. And then if you meter burn, get this, you absorb the projectile as health. Yeah, you get health back for a projectile being thrown at you. That's pretty cool. And then finally we have Shoryuken, I mean Shirai Ryu Kan. Pretty much a Shoryuken. They even named it that way on purpose. What a good tongue-in-cheek joke. I'm just just now realizing the pun. But yeah, this move was a great anti-air and also great for ending combos. It did decent damage, and then if you spent the bar, it hit twice for even more damage, and look how fast you land. You can move in on the opponent and then go for some mix-ups. And that's about it for Ronin. It's a pretty creative variation and certainly very different from the other two, but I think that might be why it wasn't as popular. Plus you lose the kunai, which is easily one of Takeda's best moves. You don't want to get rid of it. And if that wasn't bad enough, you also lose the lightsabers when you throw out the trap. Not just the normals, but also the specials, and that just kinda sucks. It's never fun when your character's moves limit how you play. And I think that's the two main reasons a lot of players didn't like this variation, but once again, freaking lightsabers, and one of the best projectiles in the entire game, especially when you meter burn it. Make no mistake, this variation was still good in its own right. It just wasn't as popular. And there you have it, everyone, the most beloved character that NetherRealm has ever made, or at least the most beloved ninja they've ever made. Leave a like down below if you want Takeda in the next Mortal Kombat game, because I absolutely do. And then keep that combo going by subscribing and ringing that bell, that way you never miss a future video. Make sure to come back next time, and as always, stay underdogs.